Welcome to the Strap and Link podcast, where we cover brands from their inception to their latest release.
It's the Montress Tudor.
Like I said, better movement, spring drive potentially, Rolex Oyster Perpetual.
There's Super Ocean here. Now you see this kind of renaissance of Tudor. Finally, in 2016, they achieved the spring drive with an 8-day power. The podcast for watch lovers by watch lovers. New episodes every first and third Monday of the month.
Today, joined by Miguel from SoCal Watch Reviews, monster YouTube channel, big Instagram presence, friend of the show, chit chat back and forth about all kinds of topics. So Miguel, if you want to introduce yourself or give a shameless plug, feel free to go ahead.
Well, Brad, Dave, thank you so much for inviting me on Monster YouTube channel. No, I'm a small YouTube channel in the big, scheme of things. But I started about 4 years ago, the YouTube channel. It all started as a passion. The wife just got tired of me hearing me talk about watches left and right. And I was like, well, what can I do? And I've been honest about this. I've had a watch addiction because that's what it is. It's not even watch collecting. It's an addiction. Oh, yeah. I've had it for a while now, and it gets very expensive, right? So I saw things online that if you review watches and you get good enough, people send you free stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to get to the point where I get free stuff, resell it and save up for my grails, right? Because the Rolex, the Omegas were a pipe dream for me because the wife told me straight up, it ain't going to happen. We're not going to spend our money on those stupid things because to her and in our Hispanic culture, when you have an expensive watch, a Rolex, because everybody knows Rolex, you basically made it, or you're like either you made it and you're really rich, or you're a show off and you're a pretender, right? So to her, there was just black and white. There was no gray area, right? And I try to tell her like that's not how it is, and watch collecting is this and this, and she was just like, no, that's not happening. So long story short, fast forward 4 years. I've been able to do that. I've been able to get a lot of free watches, sell them, save up. And now I have Rolexes and Omegas and it's all, seriously guys, 100% from the watch stuff, from the podcast. Actually not the podcast. The podcast doesn't make money. It's the YouTube channel. It's the partnerships. I've been fortunate enough to get a little better with my camera, self-taught. And I've done B-roll for companies. I've done pictures for companies and I get paid for that, So that's how I've been able to structure this. And that's how I could play in this game, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I have a Spanish YouTube channel. Haven't really nurtured it a lot because unfortunately my culture, a lot of them are very interesting and they leave very harsh comments. And I was like, you know what? The community and the English community, they're actually a little bit more forgiving, if you will, and I rarely get negative comments, if I'm being honest, but in the Spanish stuff, it's like all the time, you said this wrong, or what is that, or oh, we can't afford those kind of things, or trying to call me out. And again, going back to what I told you, it's like either you're rich or you're pretending to be rich, and it's like it's sad. It's a sad reality. I'm not talking down on my people, but that's why I kind of left that space. And the channel's still there, almost 3,000 subscribers just organically. And the podcast, we've been doing it for about 3 years, almost 130 episodes. We've had everybody from, CEOs of companies to other content creators. Obviously, Adrian, Bark and Jack, Watchfinder, Jody, Just One More Watch. I mean, TGV, you name it. We've been fortunate enough to partner up with a lot of really cool people. So that's my story. And thanks so much for the invite.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I think I think David and I share a very similar appreciation for watches, obviously, and I think the path to a podcast was quite similar. David.
Yeah, I took a little more convincing. I took a little more convincing.
Like, I don't know about that.
It's good that you figured it out on your own and had the self-confidence to be like, hey, let's step off and do this. Brett kept talking to me for a few months and was like, man, we should do this, and I was like, whatever, maybe. I'm thinking he'll forget about it next time I see him.
He didn't.
And then it really took the convincing where we would be out. I'd come and be in Atlanta and we'd go out to a bar or something and just talk for 2-3 hours about watches. And he's like, man, we could literally just put a microphone in front of us and do this. It'd be fine. And I was like, God, okay, I guess you're right. So, it definitely took some convincing. If it was just myself, I would have never started anything like this.
Yeah.
But,
it's beautiful, man, though. It's like this whole watch community is really not so much about the watches. It's about the people that you meet, the people that you interact with. And I've made so many good friends that now we have conversations, and it's not even about watches. It's about their family, their whatever, you know, and watches do get thrown into the mix, but it's beautiful. You know, obviously not everybody's super cool in this community. There's a lot of pretentious people out there and people that talk down on people, and it sucks, but it is what it is. It's like that in every hobby, you know, but I'm glad you guys did it. You know, that's the worst thing you can do is like, it's not the right moment. It's not the right moment. It's never the right moment. Just do it. You know what I mean? So you should listen to some of the podcasts early on. I literally had my phone with a little microphone, and I was thinking of doing a podcast by myself. That lasted 2 episodes. I met P. Ross through a friend of mine, and he was a member of Watch Gang. And he was into Invictus. I was like, I want somebody like that because that is kind of controversial in our little community. And we hit it off. I mean, I'm Hispanic, obviously. He's African American, and he's from Ohio. I'm in California, so completely different everything, like points of views and how the way he was raised. But we had a mutual thing, which was watches. And now the guy sold off all his Invictus. He has Omegas in his collection. He total growth from his end. You know what I mean? So yeah,
that's awesome. Well, let's do a quick wrist check. I have a feeling, Miguel, that I know what you're wearing tonight, but I'll start. I'll kick it off, and I'm with the Grand Seiko SPG M221 on the new strap. I know we've posted a lot of stuff, so by the time this episode comes out, I think a week from today will be a week old. So yeah, Monday we've posted a lot of pictures of this. Got a gray strap. Was going to throw it on the bamboo. I didn't love it. I think people were. I don't know, a little bit back and forth on it, but put it on the 221 rather, the vintage GMT, and I think it looks a lot better. So
yeah, that's an amazing watch, man. I regret selling mine, but I used it to fund my Rolex Explorer. So I'm like, I'll get it back in the collection. Also, the Swarovski polishing kind of threw me off a little bit because I like a lot of like brushing, and I was scared to like scratch it. Yeah. If you want some good straps, Vario. If you haven't heard of them, I could introduce you to them. They make some amazing straps, not a lot of money. 19 millimeter lug width because Grand Seiko, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But that's an amazing watch. High beat movement. Beautiful. That blue GMT hand. Oh my God. When the light hits it. Oh my God.
I just told my wife before we sat down, I said that you in your video had a blue strap on it, and I've seen a few of those, but if you haven't seen it, to listeners, check that out. The SPG M221 on a deeper blue leather, in particular leather. So good. Yeah. Cause it matches up with that GMT hand. It's badass. Yeah.
100%. And I threw that SBG M221 on a NATO as well. I'll send you because I owned it for almost like a year, and I'm like, let me put it on a NATO. Right. And it looks so cool. I was like, what the hell? That looks kind of cool. Cause it's like elegant. It's sporty, even though it has a 30-meter water resistance, and it sucks. I'll sneeze on it, and it's not going to work. But whatever.
Yeah.
You know, David loves NATO. Dave, what
the NATO straps have never been a fan of mine. I feel like, you know, for the price of what the watch is itself, it feels like a, you know, very light, cheap strap. So NATO's never been a big fan of mine. But for me, I have the SkyQuest on, the Manta.
Such
the
a
black
beautiful,
and red, beautiful watch. Our friends at
watch.
Manta. I just took this actually to the Bahamas last week, wore it around down there, got some great pictures with it, and it's really growing on me. I've always wanted. It's actually my company color, so when I'm in traveling sales, so when I'm cold calling or whatever, I wear this, and it matches my outfit. You know, my black polo. So
you've fallen in love with that thing, haven't you?
Yeah. It's definitely a great watch. You know, I was Manta at first, you know, I knew the nobles were beautiful, and, you know, I was like, you know, maybe it's just, you know, another kind of dressier watch. But then when I put this thing on, I mean, just the quality of it, like you said, is amazing. I love the blue lume on it as well. It's different than, you know, the Tudors, the Rolexes that I have that are all green. So it really stands out differently. But this watch I've fallen in love with it.
Yeah, you know what? So we had Manta on the show, and this is during COVID, right? So unfortunately, we didn't have both of the guys. We only had Justin. Super humble guy. He never got around to sending me a watch to check out. So for years, I went just kind of knowing Manta was really good. But I personally don't ever go to watch meets. I don't make it out. I should, but I don't. I live kind of like in the middle of nowhere here in California, and I'm always with my family, my son, my wife. So I'm like, I'm doing videos, podcasts, or with them. I don't have time to do that, and I should make time. But finally, a buddy of mine Omar, shout out Timeless Sneakers and Watches on Instagram. He doesn't live far from me, so met up with them and he has a Noble. I tried it on. I have a video. I haven't done anything with it, but I'm going to do something. I was just floored with that. I was like,
Brad
what
loves
the
his
hell?
Noble. Yeah.
It's so good, man. Like, honestly, that micro adjust right on the bracelet, just the finishing. I mean,
the only two things that I really dislike about the Manta Noble, well, there's really just one thing that I dislike about the Noble in general, and then one was kind of my choice. The power reserve is super, super low. It's only 42 hours. I find mine getting anywhere between 36 and like 48 hours. So it's very low. I love the pink dial, but it's not I can't do that like every day, you know. Pink is very summery and it goes with like, it looks awesome with like, you know, swim trunks if you're at the beach or the pool or something, or just going out, throw some salmon shorts on, like pair it up. It's awesome. But if I had it to do over again, I'd probably do the blue or the white dial.
I love their white Noble. Their white dial Noble is
because you could throw rubber and leather straps on those, or the bracelet, which is awesome. But yeah, it's only two things. But otherwise, it's a 9.5 out of 10 watch. It's awesome. Yeah.
It's insane for the value of what you get for what you pay and what you get 100%. Is amazing.
Yeah, no, 100%. We compared it to he has he has a Batman in his collection, and I was looking at the Batman and I was looking at that, and I'm like, honestly, if I didn't know about watches, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like they're both pretty good. The only problem with micro brands, most of them, is the value retention, right? And I know as watch enthusiasts, ROI is never what you want to talk about, but who cares? It is a reality.
Everybody thinks about it.
Everybody thinks about it, because when you buy something, we know as watch addicts, like, we're gonna flip it. Like, let's be honest, you know what I mean? So my boy picked it up for like, I don't know, 40% off, 30% off, pristine box and papers. And I'm like, I put my ticket in line and I said, whenever you get tired of that, because I know you will, let me know. Hit me up, because I want that watch, you know? So, But anyway, Miguel, on my wrist.
Yeah. What's,
where is it at? Submariner 16610 on a Horus, FKM strap. I don't even know if it's FKM, but it's really comfortable. I went with the pre-ceramic, and there is a reason for it. Slimmer lugs, drill holes, right? This is a 1999 edition. It just feels like a tool watch. It doesn't feel like jewelry to me, to be honest with you. I have my Tudor Black Bay 58. That feels a little bit more jewelry, but when I throw this on, especially when you put it on a rubber strap, it just disappears. You know what I mean?
I thought you were gonna have the new one. I thought you were gonna have the new.
Oh, the
baby.
Speedy?
Yeah.
I wore it, but I was wearing this over the weekend, and and then I was gonna wear this, my SPB 143 on an Erica's original strap. Some of the most comfortable straps. I know Dave is gonna poo poo on it, because how can you do that? Yeah. To be fair, it's an $80 strap. Okay.
There you go. That's more than my leather strap. So
no. So let me talk a little bit about Horus, because I didn't buy this. Okay. And I don't think I would ever buy this. And I'll tell you why. This strap alone costs almost $300. To me, that's a little too much for a rubber strap. Yeah. Right. You guys agree? However, the quality is great. Like, it fits like a glove. It was given to me for some videos or whatever. I would say, if you have the money to spend to buy a strap, maybe do it. You know what I mean? Because I've had some experience with other manufacturers. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but it just didn't fit well. And it was just scratching the case, and it just felt like it was going to fall apart. And my friend, actually, Omar, he's like, hey, Miguel, if you're willing to spend thousands of dollars on a real nice watch, why would you cheapen out on the strap? Right. Mm-hmm. So he bought the rubber B or whatever. And I just went with this because I got it for free. But out of my money, I'm too cheap. I don't think I would buy it. But it's a great strap. Like, the quality just feels really good.
That was going to be my question: is have you compared it to the rubber B? Because I know me and Brett both have a rubber B for our Black Bay 58s, and that's about $200. I think we paid for that one, which was at my max of what I wanted to pay for a rubber strap.
I've never experienced a rubber B. I've experienced an Everest, which is owned by Manta. Mm-hmm. These are on par with that. However, I do know, based on my research, Everest and Rubber B are manufactured in Switzerland, and these guys are manufactured in Thailand. Does that matter? I don't know. I mean, the quality is pretty good. What I do know, based on my research again, is that these straps, they probably get them for $7, $8, $10 at the most to get it manufactured.
Yeah.
Plus, the packaging, say out the door landed, you're talking maybe $20, maybe $17, and they're selling for 200 and something bucks. That is a crazy markup, but good for them. Last I checked, Horror Straps was valued, like, I think it's like a team of 3 at like 3 million in sales, maybe 4 million. I don't know. Good for them. All in straps. That's amazing.
That's crazy that they're that much coming out of Thailand, where you can buy a Swiss strap from Everest or Rubber Bee, for.
I mean, I'm making an
same,
assumption. I don't know. But
Yeah.
but even the packaging is great. It came with a little microfiber towel, and I was like, damn, okay. They're giving you the feels,
Oh yeah.
I think if I could redo it with the Black Bay 58, I don't know that I would have done the Rubber Bee. I think the quality is great on those, but the T, I'm trying to think like that actual term for it, the kind of T clasp on it. There's a twang clasp. I think that's the actual name for it, which everyone's seen that. It's actually what's on this one. It's just kind of the regular little crossbar with a little push pin that goes into a hole, right? It's not deploying.
The pin and buckle, you mean? Like the pin and buckle, like this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not a deployable class.
Yeah. So it's not deployant, and it's and there's no like actual clasp. How like on the Ever straps with the at least the newer ceramic subs, for example, you can take the factory, like the OEM rubber, the OEM Rolex clasp off and then onto the strap.
Yeah.
So
but why would you though? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what if you want to throw it on the bracelet real quick? You're like screwed. You're like,
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna be back and forth, I've tinkered very little with straps. I don't like doing it.
Really?
I inevitably feel like I'm just messing all kinds of stuff up with it.
Let me show you guys a little something. I hope you guys don't think I'm crazy. So I showed you that strap. I have another strap sitting here. I'm going to give them a shout out, but you can't even get them anymore. So this is from King Leather Strap. Okay. This was custom made for me. He was in California. He moved to Texas and he stopped making straps. He used to sell them for $110, $120, 100% custom for you. You could still probably find him. King Leather Craft. He is an amazing guy, Andrew. Yeah. So let me show you kind of the little problem that I have. This is just one of many, but it's a little filled up here.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So all leather straps. And then I got this thing filled up. Everything. Let me show you. I mean,
for people that can't see, since a lot of people are listening in their cars or something, we're looking at, if you've ever seen one of those old like DVD cases that just has pages and pages
that your parents used to keep in their car full of DVDs.
Oh yeah.
We're looking at one of those, but there's watch straps.
All Artham straps, and I got more coming. All Artham straps. It's insane, guys. Like honestly, I don't even. I get them because
you wear any bracelets?
Kind of. I mean, I have 2 sitting right here. I have the Omega. And I have the Rolex. They're just sitting here. So
but you've already taken those off for straps.
I do. I just switch straps all the time. It depends on my mood and how I feel. And honestly, I've been fortunate enough to get them for free. So, I put in the work, obviously.
Yeah. So, are you like when you? Because this is actually like one of the only 2 questions that I had kind of jotted down ahead of the show.
Okay.
And this question is coming from this strap sort of journey that I found myself on, looking for something to pair with that bamboo. Like how often do you actually swap straps? Because I've noticed you're speedy. I think just from Instagram, I think I've already seen 2 of those.
A lot.
2 new straps.
I actually got like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Fluco, by the way. Fluco's a German company, not very expensive. They're like 40 something bucks. You get them through whole beans. Strap. I forgot the name of their brand, of their website, but amazing straps, German straps. They're made over there in some kind of forest. But man, honestly, and this is gonna sound funny, but I actually do keep them on the bracelet most of the time. And the reason why I don't have them on the bracelet is because I was taking pictures and I was too lazy to change them back. But I want to say about 80% of the time they're on bracelets. It's the way they were meant to be. They designed them, but I get bored very easily. And since I need to constantly be posting pictures on Instagram, I'm like, I need to change the look of it. You know what I mean? I need to create content. So yeah, the back of a lot of my watches, the little lugs, are pretty scratched up just because I'm constantly changing damn straps. So,
So Miguel, tell us how did you get into watch? When you were a kid, how did you fall in love with watches? Kind of what was your introduction? I can tell you mine is just there was a Fossil store 10 minutes from where I grew up and at like an outlet mall. And, you know,
Mm.
Polo was right next to it. So we'd always go there and
Oh,
then
yeah.
I'd be like, I'd go into this Fossil store and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And that's, you know, I was 10, 12, 13, somewhere in there. That's how I fell in love. So what happened with you?
So I'm a little older than you guys, obviously. So when I was growing up, a lot of kids were wearing watches. And when I was growing up, Casio was huge, right? So I had my little Casio data bank, my little calculator, and I used to cheat all the time. So I always was used to having watches. Then when I was a teenager, I didn't really wear a watch. And it wasn't until my late 20s when I got, you know, married. Actually, yeah, I was 30. I was 30 when I got married. Anyway, so I got married and then I started wearing watches again. And I remember before my wife got pregnant, we went to, as you do, you go to the mall all the time and have a Bulova, Citizen, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this Bulova, this badass Bulova in my head, and I still have it. It's a Precisionist, kind of like a gold tone Precisionist monster of a beast, 46 millimeter. I don't know. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. At carbon fiber, you know, I was into cars then. I still am, but more back then. And I was like, man, that one day I'm going to get that watch. It's like $350. I was like, $350 is a lot of money. I was like, but one day I'm going to get that watch.
Yeah.
So wife's pregnant and it's Father's Day and I didn't think anything of it. Right. And then she comes with a gift and I was like, what the heck is this? She's like, Happy Father's Day. And I'm like, I'm not a dad. She's like, really? You know, pointing at her belly. I'm like, oh, okay. So I opened it up as Bulova and I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, you actually got this for me. It was like a beautiful moment. And I was like, so proud of it. I wore it. And then, months went by and I started doing research. I was like, I want another cool watch. I don't know nothing about watches, but let me do some research. TGB popped up and talking about all kinds of things, and I fell in love with the SKX, Seiko SKX 007. I was like, wow, that is cool. What the hell? What is that? Ended up buying it from Mark, Long Island Watch, and from there it was just like, it just real quick went down the rabbit hole, and that did it for me. And then I just fell in love with the watches and the mechanics, and it's something about watches that's so calming for me. I don't know about you guys, but just looking at them and the aesthetic and just you being one with your watch. And I've had instances, I do sales for a living. So I've had instances where I'm really, really stressed out and it's been kind of rough, and just, I go where my collection is at. I take them out. I just play with them, look at them, and just kind of bring the memories of why I bought it and this and that. And it just kind of makes me forget about everything. And then I remember how much I paid, and that makes me cry and stressed out again. But that's a different story.
It's an investment piece. You can sell
it's an
That's
investment
what I keep telling
piece.
mine.
I'm telling you, my Invicta Pro Diver is an investment piece. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on.
The guy that founded or started like the Atlanta Watch Society, there's kind of running joke going around of his Invicta obsession, which does not exist, but it's nonetheless, it's still like a joke running around. That's awesome. That's
funny, man. No, Invicta collectors are, I mean, I Trap Vision 3D, if you follow him on Instagram, he's a little more into micro brands, but Invicta was like his big thing. He even went on the cruise ships and did the whole thing. And I spoke to the guy once or twice, and they're passionate about Invicta. Yeah. Like if you talk bad about Invicta, they get very, very defensive. So I try to be respectful. It's like to each his own. It's like, you know, whatever. Not for me, but it is what it is. Just replica watches is where I don't stand for that crap, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a fairly similar kind of journey into like watch collecting. I mean, you know, I had a couple of watches when I was younger, right? Like very cheap watches, and I think the first watch that I ever owned that was worth more than probably $50 or $80 or something was also a Bulova that cool. I saw at like a K Jewelers in the mall. You know, I was like in college or something. I was like junior, senior year in college. Went back like a week later after I saw it, got it, and didn't really do anything for like 4 or 5 years. And then COVID kind of came around, and everyone's kind of chilling at home, locked down, and in the South.
And because you found that Tissot?
Yeah, exactly. So I found the Tissot, but you know, I was like reading and just watching like all these different videos and reviews and yada yada, and so just really learning all the intricacies that go into designing a watch, but also like how they work. And yeah, exactly. The Tissot was the first one, and that lasted, I think the Tissot held me off for what, David, like maybe 2.5 years, because I got it in summer of 20. And so yeah, summer of 20, so that held me off for a while. And then the the obsession started boiling back up. And as you said, it's a very slippery slope. You take off on the bunny slopes, and before you know it, you're like hanging out with Shaun White. So it was a very similar thing. Yeah.
You know, one of the dangerous things, though, and I think if anybody listening and you're new into collecting, just be very careful, because once you get deep into this hobby, it's like you buy something. I don't know if this happened to you guys. You buy something, it hasn't even arrived to you, and you're already looking for something else.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like so much so of watch collecting is more the thrill of the hunt and the negotiating and the finding things than it is actually owning the watch. And it's happened to me before. You know, the Baltic MR01, that's one that falls into different categories like hype. I fell into the hype. I always preach, don't fall into stupid hypes, and I fell into the hype. I knew that movement, what it looked like. I've handled watches with that movement, and I was like, but I still want it. It's so cool, right? And I got it, and it looks like $1 million, right? Brigade numerals. It looks amazing, but then you pick it up, and you're like, okay. I just spent $750 on this, okay, you know. So you got to be careful, guys, because it's a slippery slope. So
yeah, I think especially with micro brands, because similar to Baltic, like there's like Formex and Baltic. Particularly, there was a Hodinkee and Baltic sort of collab that came out.
Oh yeah,
maybe a year ago, like maybe around this time. But yeah, I mean, gorgeous looking watch, and I think to your point, it's like, you know, you can definitely fall into that. I guess with like micro brands, it's maybe a little bit more of like if you haven't gone deep into the micro brand, and I would definitely put Monta as an exception. 100% they're a micro brand, but I don't think that they play really in the same field as probably 95% of other brands that are at their size or smaller, or even maybe 20% above.
I agree.
But like it's definitely happened. The last watch that I had the last one that I purchased was the Bamboo, the Grand Seiko Bamboo. And I can say that was the first one in quite a long time that I got it. And there was no desire to look at anything else afterwards.
Oh, nice. That's cool, man.
Then that's a nice feeling.
yeah. Because I mean, the Tudor, I was like, I got it, and that lasted for like maybe a month, and then
you're like, oh, I'm itching for more.
Yep,
Give me more.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just like a feeling.
Yeah. So, I finally feel for the first time like I'm calm. Like I'm good with the collection that I've got right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's good, man.
Same thing with me with the Tudor I got, because I wanted a black Submariner, and I ended up getting the Navy Tudor, really knowing it, which is why I got the Navy Tudor, Black Bay 58, because I was like, I know I'm getting a black dial sub, so I'm like, I'm not going to get the Black Bay 58, the black one like Brett has, because then I'll just have two black diver watches, and I'll never wear the Tudor again. And so, you know, doing that, I got it, and I think I probably bought that in March, and by June I was picking up my black sub. I was like, it just did nothing, you know. For a month or two I was like, this is nice, and then I was like, okay, I've got to get the real thing that scratches the itch. It's always about scratching the itch, and that's, I think, where you can really get in trouble, you know, watch collecting, is like, hey, just using that $10,000, I can get a sub, but I don't have $10,000, but I have 4, so I'm gonna buy this Tudor, and then you buy the Tudor and you're fine with it, but it doesn't scratch the, so, you know, the itch, you still want to spend $10,000. So now you're going $14,000. And if you just wouldn't buy the Tudor, you would just spend the 10. And I think that's where a lot of people can get in trouble, because that, you know, that happens. And bought that one, and then once I got the Grand Seiko Skyflake, I was like, okay, I'm done as well. I think the same thing. That itch was scratched, and then I ended up looking for a house, and I was like, yeah, I'm really done with watches right now.
Yeah, I'm really done. That's what he says. Just wait.
Is that your
until next year. Yeah, the Grand Seiko. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We got those 3 within a year and a half of each other.
That's a lot of money.
I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah,
well, that's a lot of money.
I've told David a lot lately that I'm close. Well, I'm pretty much to the point where I'm considering downsizing. Like, I'm really thinking about getting rid of the Black Bay 58. And I took a trip. I was by myself over the weekend. Went to go visit my grandparents, and I took the Black Bay 58 and nothing else. I wanted to just have that watch. I put the bracelet back on it, so took the black rubber B strap off. actually forgot like how much I actually like the clasp on that, but I took it for that purpose, right? Because for the last like 2 months, I've been thinking, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna try to sell this Black Bay 58, and then I'm gonna get what, is it gonna be Noble with the white dial, or is it gonna be like saving up for a bigger piece, like maybe like a Speedy in another like couple of years or something, like whatever the case was. And so I was like, let me just take this and let me just kind of remember like what that feeling is like to just have one watch.
Right.
Because like, I don't know about you guys, but I wear, at least 3 or 4 different watches a week.
Oh,
sometimes 2 in a day, depending on like what.
Oh, yeah, I do 2 a day for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like even 6 right now for me is I'm like, I'm not wearing 2 of them hardly ever, so I feel like that money would be better spent somewhere else.
So what happened? Did you rekindle your relationship with the BB58?
I mean, I liked having it as the only watch, except for the fact that the date window or the lack of a date complication is really bugging me. It's the only watch right now that I have that doesn't have a date complication.
It screws you up. Mine too. It screws you up when you're wearing it. You're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I really hate it.
Well, because for work purposes, I'm assuming, right? Or,
yeah. Well, I mean, work or even just like yesterday, me and my wife were talking about something, and trying to figure out what day of the week it was. Right?
You're like, oh, it's gonna be on. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. So I'm always doing that. I mean, it's, I don't know. Like I'm still kind of torn. Like I don't think that I'm going to be upset if I lose it or if and when I sell it, but it is kind of sentimental. I did wear that on my wedding day, so there's like obviously that aspect to it. But at the same time, I'm just like, am I going to wear this down the road at some point in the future? So I'll probably hang on to it for another couple of months, I think, at this point, because like I said, I can't really make my mind up. I'm still very much like on the fence. And if I get another month or 2 months down the road, I'm like, look back and I'm like, all right, I've worn this 5 times in 60 days. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll get the case back engraved and maybe I'll give that to my son whenever he graduates from college or something. Maybe it's an heirloom piece. So I don't know.
That's what I was going to say, man. I was going to tell you, obviously you guys don't have kids, but I think doing that kind of forces you to hang on to the watch if you engrave it. You know what I mean? And especially because you wore it on your wedding day. I mean, imagine, so put yourself in your kid's position. How would you feel if your dad said, hey, son, you graduated college or whatever. I got married in this Tudor watch to your mom. Yeah. Here it is. How would you feel? You'd be like, oh my God, that is so cool. Right? And think about it. In the grand scheme of things, you spend less than $4,000 on the watch. We're not rich, right? $4,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, man, this watch will be discontinued. Mark my words, the OG Black Bay 58 and the blue, they will get phased out. And then guess what? It's going to be a classic. And then you're going to be like, oh crap, why did I sell it? I sold that to buy this, but then I sold that to get this, but then what else did I get? Oh, now I forgot what I bought. That's happened to me before. It's like I sold watches and I'm like, I regret selling that. And it wasn't an expensive watch, but it's like, why did I do that? I should have just kept it. You know what I mean? So give it some thought, man.
That's the biggest. Watch. Yeah, that's the biggest thing to me. Like you said, is okay. You can sell it for around $3,000. Is that $3,000 going to make a bigger difference than the sentimental value that you'll have of it? I think
it's not.
You don't need $3,000 that bad, or you would sell the Rolex before you to get it. If it was like, hey, I can sell this Tudor Black Bay 58 and get $10,000 or $15,000 like you could a sub, then that'd be one thing. But it's like $3,000. I mean. I think the sentimental value of it as well would be because the same thing with mine. The Tudor was my first, luxury piece that wasn't, like a Gucci or, something like that. So I was like, yeah, it'll be nice to say you always have that, but
yeah.
And I think you're in the same boat as me is there's nothing right now that I'm itching for. If I was sitting here like, man, if I sold that and I threw $3,000 on top of it, I could buy a Speedy, and I just want a Speedy. I'm dreaming about a Speedy every week. I'm thinking about it, and neither me or you are like that. We're just like, we're happy with the collection now, but hey, 2-3 years down the road, or knowing us next year, we're like, well, we need that Speedy, and then maybe re-attack.
Well, I know that's the conversation we had on the Tissot episode, because we talked about, first watches and how Tissot, we talked about that's a good brand for that. And particularly for me, that was my first Swiss and mechanical watch. And that was pretty much the same way that you phrased it then, right? Is the money that you would get from selling a Tissot Gentleman, right? $300 or $400, if you're lucky, maybe $450. Is that worth getting rid of the first luxury watch or the the piece that got you into the rest
The
of
first
the
ever
collection,
watch.
you know?
Yeah.
That was
Right.
the door that opened up to the Tudor and the Grand Seikos and the Rolexes and yada yada and all the straps, and now passing it down, you know. So yeah, I mean, again, I can see the sentimental value in it. It's probably just that. I mean, it's that collector like itch, you know. It's that what's the
It's an
next
addiction,
thing?
man.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
And that's the problem, and I hope I don't want to come across as a snob, but you guys are gonna know what I'm talking about. Once you start off with the Tizo, with the Tizo, I'm sorry, Tizo, I pronounced it. What the hell did I say? I pronounced it the Mexican way, probably. Tizo, Seiko, Orient, you know, whatever. Cool watches, I love them. I obviously have my Seiko right here, but there's something to be said. Once you taste luxury, once you taste the expensive things, it's really hard to go back. And to get that itch fix, it's not like I could be like, "Hey, Brad, you want to get your fix? Why don't you buy a Seiko SKX, a 5KX? Get one of
Yeah,
those. Those are pretty
yeah.
cool." You're like, "Yeah, they are cool, but it's not going to do it for me. I need
Yeah.
another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 watch." But
And that's
why?
why, yeah,
You
and that's
know?
why I was always very, hesitant on getting micro brands. I was like, I have these very quality watches. Why do I want to spend $1,000 on a watch that I can tell is not as nice,
I
and I'll
feel you.
never wear it? Which is why it shocked me when I liked this Manta so much. I was like, holy crap, this feels just like all my true luxury watches, and that's why I approve of Manta so much versus something like, I don't want to say any other brands, but there's a couple in my head that I'm like, I'm sure if I bought that I would wear it once and then it would sit in that watch box, because why would I wear that when I could wear my sub?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and let's be honest. You know, I heard this from Hodinky once on one of their podcasts, and one of the guys said, "Look, we have a limited time on this earth. How long? We don't know. Do you want to spend the limited amount of time that you have here on the little real estate that you have on your wrist, just wearing things that are probably subpar to what you like, or do you want to wear something that you love, and every time you look down, you're like, that's a lot of hard work." Right. It's not about show offy. It's about the sacrifices that you made and seeing how far you've come. And you guys are younger than me. So it's like, kudos to you for having a badass collection, right? It's like, think about it. A lot of people would love to be in your position, especially people from third world countries. And that's what I know as a somebody that's on YouTube. I sometimes feel bad talking about these expensive things because I talk about a Hamilton, khaki field mechanical, and to me it's a $350 watch, $400 watch, whatever. It's not cheap, but I could afford it, and I sold it and I could get it back, whatever. You guys could too, right? I get people from the Philippines. I get people from, oh, that's my grill watch. Oh, that's my dream watch. And it really puts things into perspective. You're like, oh crap. All right. You know what I mean? So we are fortunate to be in this space. We're fortunate to be having Rolexes in our collection and Tudors and whatever. And I just think, again, you can't go back, and it's just an itch that you need to fix. And how do we fix that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still in search for that,
It's definitely
never
a lot of
ending
good points.
search.
No, something I wanted to mention, and I don't want to come across as shallow, because I promise you I'm not, and I'm very, humility is huge for me, right? But there's something to be said. There's a reason why people go to the gym, to look good. There's a reason why you go to the barber, to look good. You like compliments. It's a normal human behavior, right? So when you have a nice watch, and I'm talking a badass watch, you have a Rolex, you have a Tudor, and people in the community compliment you left and right, it feels amazing for a number of reasons. Number one, you worked your ass off for it. It wasn't handed to you. You worked for it, right? So you like the compliments. It makes you feel good. However, when you get a lesser known brand, you may get the compliments, but everybody and their mom could go out pretty much and afford that watch. So again, I don't mean to sound like a snob, but there is some kind of sense of pride of ownership. And it's like, look, I did it not for you, not for your neighbor. You did it for yourself. And when somebody says, hey, good job, that's a badass Grand Seiko, you did it, that's a beautiful piece, it's a grail for me, or whatever, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel just kind of like, I want to work harder. I want that next level thing, it motivates you. Not everybody, but
Well, and me too. I mean, when I'm in person sales, I'm face to face. I don't know if you're over the phone or over
both,
web. Yeah.
everything.
So when I'm sitting there, in a customer's office, and I just cross my arms like this, and I
on
see,
purpose,
and I see him, and I see him, look down, or I'm talking to him standing up, and using my hand or whatever, and I just see his eyes. You can catch their glare. They'll look down like, what's that guy wearing? And, there's nothing better than I feel like that, especially for me, being in my mid-20s, you're, wearing a black sub. And he's like, dang, okay. You get that, and it makes you really motivate you, like you said, where you're like, hey, I have something to live up to. Like, I'm not sitting over here looking like a bum. So he's probably thinking, hey, this kid's put together, so you better act right. You better know what you're doing.
And he owns that. There's a reason why he owns that, because he's probably a badass salesperson.
Yeah. Especially with the Grand Seiko. I love when somebody recognizes that. I was down, like, in the Bahamas last week, and there's a watch palace in this resort where every JLC, Omega, Breitling tag, Tudor, Rolex, it literally everything. It was Rado. Everything was being sold there.
I can't believe you guys came back.
Wow.
With nothing. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. It was hard. I wanted that JLC Reverso with no tax, but I didn't do it. But he recognized the guy there, recognized the Grand Seiko. He's like, man, he saw the case back first. And he's like, I was trying to figure out what that was, and finally gave it to him. And him seeing that and actually being able to talk to somebody about a Grand Seiko, I feel like that's somebody that really knows something about a watch, because those are not everybody knows what the heck those are. And
but you find a Grand Seiko appreciator, you found someone that really, really is into watches, like someone that really cares about design,
the spring drive. If he's like, it's a spring drive, I'm like, oh, you know what that is? Okay, you really know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you found a watch person if someone's talking you up, chit-chatting you about a Grand Seiko, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, one watch that I got complimented on, and it was kind of funny, is the Nomos. So the Club, what is it? Club Neomatic, Club Sport Neomatic. It's so simple. I mean, it looks like a Timex. Let's face it, right? Yeah. The dial, just everything's so simple. But yeah, and he was a watch guy, so he's like, "Is that a Nomos? Like those? I never see those around." I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool, right? Like, and whatever." And me immediately, maybe I shouldn't do this, but immediately I go, "Oh, well, I'm into watches. I have a YouTube channel and this and that." And I'm like, "Why do I do that?" And I'm like, maybe because I want them to know that I'm not a snob or something, And unlike you, David, because my sales are a little different. It's more kind of like I'm trying to sell projects and a little different. I don't wear my Rolexes very often. I only wear them at home or over the weekend. But when I'm out and about, I try to wear something like a Nomos that flies under the radar, just because I don't want to come across as like a lot of times I've been told by people that are complaining about their job, like, "Oh, I want more pay," or you could tell they're kind of probably not great. Yeah. And for me to be showing up like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Can you sign my proposal so I can make a commission?" Because I need more.
That's definitely a fine line. That's definitely a fine line. And the same thing with me, because a lot of the people we sell to are blue collar workers.
Oh, and, you got to be careful.
So it's like, you always hear about that. You don't want to be the salesman pulling up in the Porsche. You just want to. Now down here in the South, you can sit around and drive a $200,000 jacked up Ford truck and they don't care. They're pumped up. "Oh my God, I want this." They're fired up. But if you show up in a Mercedes, they're like, "Oh God, that snob." But
don't talk to me. I'm not buying. I'm not buying.
It's definitely a fine line. But it's kind of like, you can look at it that way too. And then I look at it as other ways of being like, hey, I'm not just some kid that doesn't know what the heck he's doing. And so, when you present yourself and look nicer, then, it just depends on the person. But that's definitely a fine line where you got to read the room. And if this guy's complaining about how slow business has been for 2 years and he can barely feed his family, you might want to take that one off and just kind of sit there with nothing.
Well, I would say this for any new prospect or anybody listening that does sales, any new prospect, where be as humble as possible, look as humble as possible, well put together, of course. But once you build a relationship with the person and they know you and you know them, then I think it's okay, because then you show them like, look, whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. The owner of my company, he drives a Bentley, really nice Bentley, older gentleman, of course, and he works for Datejust. And we were going to do some cold calls. And he's like, "You know what? Let's go in the company car. I don't want to take my car." And then on the way there, he told me, he's like, "I don't want to be showing up. I don't want to be that guy showing up in a Bentley, and we're trying to like drum a business and trying to be humble and all that, and it's just gonna come across the wrong way." And I didn't have a Rolex then, so I said, "Oh, how do you feel about your Rolex?" He's like, "Oh, I wear it, and I wear long sleeves, so sometimes it covers it. But you just got to be careful how you present yourself. It's more about what you know and how you talk and all that. But yeah, a lot of times people, you know, they judge a book by its cover. We all do it, you know, so you got to be careful.
Person, yeah. And you don't want to take that risk of walking in and you're finding that one customer that hates the Rolex, but anybody that wears a Rolex is a piece of shit, you know.
You never know.
Run that risk. Yeah. Yep. But it's just funny how down here in the South is like you can drive the craziest jacked up Jeep or truck and they won't think twice about it. But if you drive like my boss, he drives, you know, probably a $80,000 Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, like, you know, the top line, I forgot, Summit, whatever it is, and nobody thinks twice. But he could buy a Land Rover, a Range Rover for less money. But if he drove that Range Rover up there, they'd be like, huh, you know, it's just
don't talk to that guy.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just the brand that you pull into the driveway with that they'll look at that.
But brand association, strong.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a funny thing too, because like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you're just in this situation where, you know, you might be like wearing, you know, a Rolex, or like before my wedding, we had a kind of a get together on, I guess it was Friday, just at this local place. Dave and I, we've been there before, gotten beers, you know, midweek, just after work, happy hour type place. So very casual, kind of just like gastropub place. Right. But I just happened to be wearing my Rolex that day. I don't know, it fit or something, right? Or matched rather, right? And it's just weird because when someone, you know, maybe someone that you've never met before or someone that you haven't seen in a long time or something like that, extended family member is a pretty good example, right? Because then they really don't have any problem saying anything to you, right? Like, oh man, you've got a Rolex or something. And they just immediately think that like you're like a millionaire all of a sudden. It's like, no, I just spent my money on what you would have spent your money on gambling or lifting your truck
or a truck or a gun.
We'll keep it deep south, right?
Yeah.
Instead of your $10,000 Benelli shotgun, I spent, you know, my money on a watch or whatever. And so I do find that kind of perplexing where because I don't ever really think that's a brag. I don't think that, you know, if you can afford, as long as you can afford things, right? I know they're like Teddy on his channel talks. I've heard him say at least 2 or 3 times, like, no one wants to be the guy, and don't be the guy that has a Rolex, but you sleep on an air mattress or you just don't have a bed frame, right? I think that you can go that far, and that's too much. But like, if someone can afford something, it doesn't mean that they're showing off, right? Like if someone can afford the Bentley, doesn't necessarily mean that, right? But they do have an appreciation. So I do find that a little perplexing where you can end up in those situations. And I'm sure that it's happened to all 3 of us or to you too. I just said that it's happened to me where, someone they might say something or maybe just ask a question in a way that you can tell it's coming off a little judgmental. And in the back of my mind, I'm just like, man, like I'm just a person like you, right? I put my money into something else, and
these are my hobbies.
Put your money into something else. Yeah. If you told me about your gambling addiction, I wouldn't talk down on you for it. You know, like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the big thing is like a lot of salesmen, even when I was buying, you know, in that kick of buying watches, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you spent that much on a watch. Your phone tells the time. I'm like, yeah, but I can't believe you spend $10,000 a year going on hunting trips to Wyoming. Like, well, you know, you do crazy things I would never do. So, you know, you're spending the same amount of money I am, but just in something else. And at least I can keep mine.
You're like, I could sell it and get my money
You're
back.
You're going
to
shoot an elk in Wyoming twice a year is costing just as much as this Rolex. And you do it year after year after year. And
that's
but
crazy.
Even further, it's just like, I mean, everyone's going to do whatever they want to do, right? Like, I mean, people just need to be good people, right? Like, don't flash the Rolex in the poor guy's face just because you can, and you know. But also, it's like don't pass judgment on someone, you know, because they're wearing something or because they're not wearing something, right? It's like if I'm in the room with a Rolex and you're wearing a Tissot, I'm going to ask you about your Tissot. Like, that's just the kind of person I am because I like to watch, you know.
Now, there might be people that want that judgment, like, oh, yeah, he thinks I'm a millionaire. That's why I'm wearing this Rolex. Now, there are those people that own Rolexes that think that, hey, I'm wearing this because I want them to think I'm rich. And those are normally, like you said, the guys that are sleeping on the mattress on the floor.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's a reputation Rolex gets. You know what I mean? Just because Rolex it's for the people and not the watch people. It's for the world, right? That's why they promote so heavily. And unfortunately, most of the people wearing Rolexes that are not watch people, they're wearing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
that's just a reality. You know what I mean? I find it more refreshing. Obviously, when I see somebody wearing a Omega, Grand Seiko, I know they're a watch person. And even if they're not, because I've spoken to them, they're like, oh no, my wife got it for me, or I thought it was cool, you know, but they're not into watches, but it's like, cool. That's refreshing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think part of me does separate the Rolex thing, where I think that because their brand, I mean, they're one of the best marketing brands in the world. Like,
yeah,
I mean, they make watches, but let's be real about it. They're a marketing company because
they're a marketing company. Yeah.
There's much better movements and other things than that are less money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because think about it, like there's a reason why everyone knows Rolex. It's because they're so good at marketing, and because they want to. Like they don't steer away from it. I mean, their name is on billboards at every sporting event, every this and every that. I don't know, choosing a brand just because it's popular. And so Rolex, I think you're always going to have people that choose it just because it's popular, even though it's affordable compared to brands that make way better stuff. Like David said, there's people out there that make really awesome watches, and someone that's rocking a Rolex OP or something like that couldn't sniff that. But even that awesome watch, it doesn't carry that weight, you know? So, I mean, I think it's part of the just society at this point, you know, that's a culture. We have all this and we need to attain that. And then you have the watch person side of it, where the Rolex is just this, you know, really awesome symbol of like history and horological, significance. So,
yeah. I agree.
Interesting topic. Miguel, you talked about the Nomos for a minute though. I'm curious because I think those are awesome. Like the coral dial. I'm a big fan of the coral dial. Do you like the Nomos? I mean, anything you want to share about that, like good or bad?
Yeah. Nomos is amazing. I mean, obviously I've been a huge fan of Longa and Glashute, Original. I can't afford them, right? They're really expensive. And the next best thing is Nomos. I've experienced Nomos before prior to owning them, and I thought their quality was really good. Unfortunately, the lugs are probably what keep a lot of people away from Nomos, because the lugs are really long, right? So even if you get a 35 millimeter, it wears more like close to a 40 or like a 38 because of the lugs. So that's always been kind of the unfortunate thing with Nomos. But I think the Bauhaus design and the minimalistic just kind of look, and that Neomatic, at least the Neomatic movement, it's amazing, you know, and everything's kind of in-house and for not a lot of money. And I truly recommend it, but it could be boring for a lot of people. Okay. It's very simple, you know, but it's a nice brand, good people. I was, again, I'm not trying to flex, but I just like being transparent. And I said it in my video. I didn't buy that Nomos.
Yeah.
It was given to me by Nomos, and I appreciate that. It took 2 years of negotiating back and forth with them, but I fulfilled my obligation with the pictures and the video and all that. And honestly, in those 2 years, amazing people. Like I had Zoom calls with them, obviously very different because they're German. They're kind of cold, but you know, I try to be a jokester and be animated, and they're just like, I mean, the girl was a little laughing, you know, a little bit just because, you know, but it was a little tough. And I invited them to the podcast, and she said, no, the owner does not believe in podcasts. He doesn't want to, he's old school. He doesn't like podcasts. Wow. So he's barely getting around to social media. That's why there are things, and I wish they would change their approach, because I think their website is beautiful. Their social media is beautiful, but it's very clinical. Very kind of white background, everything's so clinical, very professional. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, that's not what people do. That's not how people wear watches. You wear watches going to the park, going to the beach, riding a motorcycle, you're with your family. I want to see that. People want to be able to connect with brands, right? So that's the only thing that I wanted to kind of bring a little bit of that to my channel, because I'm always a huge if you see my videos, I like to change the straps a lot on watches, because that's a real life scenario. That's what collectors do. I SBGM 221. Before I bought it, I was like, how does it look on different straps? Yeah. It wasn't until I found Evan's channel, right? Well, I know Evan, you're terrific. And he had that video, that epic video, and he had, don't ask me what the strap is. I don't know. But I was like, that looks so beautiful. It looks beautiful. And that's what made me actually buy the watch, because I saw it on different straps. So that's what I do on my channel. I try to give you kind of a real look of how it looks on your wrist of a normal person, not in a clinical kind of setting, you know? Yeah. So, but Nomos. Great brand, highly recommend them. Beautiful, great finish, great value. not for long, because they will get their time, and I think they're going to go up in value, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it about so you're saying the lugs? It
Yeah,
makes it
so
wear
most-
large. What's the
So if you ever get the opportunity to wear Nomos, especially the not the one that I have, that one has long lugs as well, but I think it's more like the oh man, the name kind of, I lost the name, but the OG ones, the original ones, they'll come to me. The lugs are almost like a wire. It's a wired lugs almost, kind of, and it wears very long. It's far apart from like the case, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the lug to lug?
it's super far.
It's just really
Yes,
stretched.
the lug to lug. And then the lugs from the actual case is like very the tangente, there you go. The Nomos tangente is the one that I'm specifically talking about. The lugs are so skinny, and it wears kind of long. And even mine, the one that I have, when I put it on a strap, like on a leather strap, the gap between like where the strap ends and like
I'm
the case,
noticing
it's
that
a big
now.
gap.
Yeah,
It's a bit, you can't unsee it. You can't, I'm sorry, you can't
I just
unsee it.
noticed that for the first, and I looked down at this strap, and I'm thinking, all right, where the bottom of the case comes, it's a semicircle, right? That nearly touches the strap.
Yeah, no,
the
and these
Nomos
it doesn't.
has
It's a
got
huge
space.
gap.
The Nomos
A
has
lot of
space
space.
everywhere. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
And that's just
But
because
that's
the
their
lug-
that's their language. That's their design.
Wow,
You know,
okay.
that's what they do. People complain, but that's what Nomos does. That's Nomos. You know what I mean? Just like a misaligned bezel on a Seiko. That's Seiko. That's what they do.
Yeah. Wow. So,
But it's not bad, man. I recommend you guys check it out, or reach out to them, see if they let you borrow some watches. Once you see them in person, you're like, oh.
well,
this
I was
movement is
just going to
nice.
say that I know we've seen some in person at some watch events or at some meets. We've had so many of the meets that we have in Atlanta have been sponsored lately, and like Monta, for example, was one of those companies. And so there's
That's how we met.
yeah, so there's been brands, right, and brand ambassadors and owners and, and designers and things like that. So because of that, when they're not just kind of like the member only, quote unquote, there's not as many like watch rolls that are brought with a wide collection that you can kind of look at. So when they're these kind of sponsored, it's maybe like 10 or 20 watches. When it's not, it's 100 or 200 watches. So I know we've seen some, but I didn't take a look, obviously, that detailed with them. But like you said, you can't unsee it, because I'm looking at the Coral dial, which is a 38 millimeter, which I think I would like. But then, that starts to look more like a 40 millimeter.
They look big, man. They look big. Like the dial looks huge. Like if you go to my video, not the one for the Club Sport, but the other one, the Tangente, they send me 3 different sizes. The smallest one, 34, 35, then send me the 38, and then they send me like a 42. Holy crap, that 42. Big one were big. Was it 41? I forget what it was, but that thing was huge. It was like, oh my God, this is huge. And then because it's all, there's no bezel, right? It's all like dial. Yeah. It makes it look even bigger, So, but Nomos it's beautiful, man. Like it's just so elegant. Like when you throw it on and you're wearing the right clothes, it's just so elegant, so slim, under the radar for sure. Nobody knows what the hell you're wearing,
Yeah. So you have a Club Sport, not the Club.
Yeah, no, I have the Club Sport with the Neomatic movement with the petrol dial, the green dial.
What's the Neomatic movement? What is that about?
So most of their watches, if you look, they're manual wind. So like the Club Campus, it's a manual wind. That's why I didn't want that watch. I have the Speedy Pro, and I'll make an exception for that, but it's still annoying winding it. I love automatic watches. I'm lazy. I want to throw it on and just maybe set the date and stuff, and then just give it that old shake, and that's about it. I don't want to be sitting there spinning it 40 times, winding it or whatever. So
that's really what
the
pushed
Neomatic
me away
is
from the Speedy. I always forget about that. The Speedy is a manual wind.
Unless you get the automatic, but then it's not the same. It's not the professional, but it's not bad, man. You know what? I will say this about the Speedy. Something that surprised me, and obviously I haven't even made a video or anything, is the crown is so damn small. And I'm like, I'm not a big guy. I'm a small guy. And fingers are not that big. And I have a hard time winding that thing. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't.
Similar to pop it out at least.
Grand Seiko's like that. It's hard to pop out.
Yeah. No, but imagine the Speedy. You got to wind it when you know, I mean, you could pop it out or whatever, but the crown is so small, man. And I used to have my very first Speedy was a reduced, right? So like a 3511, the reverse Panda. And that was cool because it had the Value 7750 automatic movement. I didn't have to worry about that, but my heart was set on the Speedy. And kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation, one recommendation I have, and you guys could agree, don't ever settle for a watch. I want the Rolex Submariner, so I'm going to buy a Tudor Black Bay.
Yeah.
Right? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you will not, I promise you will not be happy and you'll be justifying your purchase. Well, I didn't want the Rolex anyway. I mean, silver, everybody has it. Every douchebag is wearing it. It's like, no, stop.
And then you're also
Stop
in a
making
worse place
excuses.
financially because now you've just
Yeah,
spent
exactly, David.
14 versus 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you spent $3,800 that could have been a down payment, maybe on a 0% finance deal for 12 months.
Exactly.
Or if you didn't, now you try to sell that back. Now that 38 turns to 3,100.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, if you eventually just
It's crazy.
So yeah, that's probably the best advice. So we've given that on here too. We've heard it, and it's the best advice I've received
100%.
and that we can give is do not settle.
I'll give it this advice, okay? So this is the Seiko SPB 143 is one of the highest viewed videos on my channel to this day, right? And there's a reason for it. It's a very popular watch. It's a cool watch, but here's what I said. I started the video by saying the Rolex Submariner has always been my Grail watch. And something about the SPB that I bought kind of scratches that itch, but it's a different watch, right? And the reason why I bought this wasn't so much to scratch the Rolex itch a little bit, but it was more because I love Seiko, and the 62 Moss is a beautiful watch. I just wouldn't want to buy the vintage one for numerous reasons, right? So this was the next big thing or biggest thing to that. And also it did give me some Mariner kind of feels in a way. It looks very different, but it is a dive watch.
Yeah.
It has history, right? It has the DNA of a 62 MAS. So when I got this is one of the few watches in my collection that for maybe 5-6 months, I didn't want anything else. I was settled. I was happy. I was content. And then the bug bit me again. I was like, no, I need something else. What kept me going though, as a YouTuber, or whatever you want to call me, is the watches they would send in for review. I either borrowed them or got to keep them. So that kind of kept my thing fed, you know, my addiction fed or whatever. But once it stops and there goes months when nobody reaches out to you, you're like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? But yeah, don't ever settle for something. Now, if you want to settle for something, make sure that watch you're settling for is a watch that you want by itself, not because you're replacing it for something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of do this, me and Brett, back and forth. I know we're probably getting towards the end here, so this will be a good segue to the last one. What is your now? I know you said your Grail watch used to be the Submariner. What is your new one? Because there's always a new one once you get it.
Right? Yeah. To be honest with you guys, there was 2 watches as my like Grails. It was a Rolex Submariner date and the Speedmaster Professional. And now that I have both, I feel content right now. I don't even know what else I would buy. I would be lying if I said, oh, I want a Royal Oak, right? Or I want an FP Journe. I mean, of course, they're awesome watches, but even if I had the money, I don't know if I could buy an expensive watch.
It's hard
like
to
that.
Justify that.
If I could buy it at retail.
It is. No.
Even retail's hard.
Even retail's hard. 20,000, 25,000 for a watch and above. I mean, even 15,000 would be a stretch for me. I don't know, man. I've been thinking the same thing. The only watch that I do know I love is the Grand Seiko, the Blossom, the Cherry Blossom.
Yeah.
I've almost bought that watch a few times, but what's holding me back is the titanium. I don't like the color of titanium. I love stainless steel. I love how it shines, and titanium does not. And also something that I don't like about that watch is how the hands blend in with the dial. It's like, it just blends in a little too much, you know, but that's probably the only one that I'm like, all right, that one and the Monta, but that one I will buy pre-owned. I refuse to pay retail.
David, what's on your Grail list right now? Like, because I'm thinking about that, and I'm struggling to come up with a list there.
Well, just of what I would want next. Obviously, a Monta's popped in just because it's so obtainable, you know, and I love the feel of it. But again, if I'm buying the next watch, it'd probably be an Omega, maybe Speedmaster, maybe Globemaster, or I always go back to that Breitling Super Ocean Heritage. I love their Super Ocean Heritage line for Breitling. I love it much more than just the original Super Ocean. Is that glossy finish, much more elegant, but still the dive watch feel. But still that's just where I keep, which is good because I'm actually sitting here for 7 months now, just pondering on what do I really want, and I can bounce back and forth. But I really think Manta's pulled up. If I was like, hey, you have this amount of money, I would buy a Manta before anything.
Yeah,
it would probably be the SkyQuest.
Yeah, I wasn't as in love with the SkyQuest as I thought I was going to be, but I think it makes sense because you are like I
like the sport.
Yeah. I mean, you're like your sub is like that's your baby. I don't have any big chunky tool watches. It's made me wonder if the old Starbucks or like Kermit route would be like a mistake, like because I've always thought that outside of a Sky Dweller, like that's always just been my favorite watch from Rolex because I think it's just such a cool watch that they figured out how to put all of those complications in. And it's obviously a beefy, chunky watch, very good reason. But I love the practicality of it, and I've learned as I've kind of grown as a collector that having a practical watch is like, if it's not the top, it's the 1B on the list of priorities. So yeah, it's made me wonder that, but yeah, I mean, Monta's
another watch, especially now that I've seen it and worn it in person, is the new GMT Master that Rolex came out with. It's beautiful. I really like with the black and gray.
Oh yeah, because you saw some. Well, you saw some exhibition.
I saw the solid gold. Yeah, the exhibition. Yeah. The solid gold and the two-tone, and they both just were. Honestly, that probably jumped in the top 3 favorite Rolexes right now.
Wow.
Dang. And, it's very nice, and it's heavy. I mean, when I exhibition, same thing. I tried on a Day-Date President with diamond studs and everything, and a very heavy watch, and it was just as heavy as that. It's a heavy watch. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Dang. The new Daytona is badass. The Nippon Newman.
I haven't seen that one in person yet, but
looks nice.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Just right before you jumped on. I mean, it just came out a couple of days ago. Been traveling, crazy at work lately. So I was just kind of brushing up on that model and everything. 51K for that model retail. It's crazy. I mean, it's white gold.
White gold, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I mean, that shows how much I know, right? Like, I don't know what the cost of gold is. I don't know if that's like a high price for a gold watch or if that's just on par.
Well, I mean, their Day-Date Presidents are around 40. Their Submariner solid gold blue and black dials are 40. 39.9, I think. So everything's around 40. So I guess
the Daytona is only
Daytona,
so the
raise
Daytona,
it 10 grand.
It's a limited edition, 10 grand premium for that. So I guess that makes sense.
But nobody's going to pay that. Everybody's going to be in the $200,000-$300,000 range. So
the 10 people
good luck
that
anyone.
get that.
Yeah. Well, and and that was I want to distinguish that point. That's what I meant by if I could get not a Royal Oak. I really dislike Royal Oaks, but 5711. Yeah. That's what I was getting at, saying if I could get it at retail, I would do that because the money that you could make on it. Oh my God.
True.
But it's an investment at that point. It's not really a grail. It's more of an investment.
I mean, I'd
wear it around for 6 months just to show it off. And then
unless I won the lottery or something. Yeah. I mean, I would probably do the same thing. I would wear it. For a quick
months. Flip would be if you could get an Omega Snoopy, just get it real quick, flip it, be like, boom, done. Man. I wouldn't. That's actually, I know you guys feel very weird about the Snoopy, but I actually like the Snoopy. It's actually, when I started getting into watches, I found Omega and I was like, oh, what's Omega? It's space, about space. I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never been into space, but I could get into space. And then I saw Snoopy. I'm like, why is Snoopy on the dial?
Yeah.
And the very first Snoopy that I saw was the second iteration they did is the white dial where he's like sleeping and it says, what can you do in 14 seconds or something like that? I don't know if you guys seen it. It's 3 iterations of the Snoopy. Yeah. So they've made the Snoopy watch 3 times. So this is the 3rd iteration, the one with the little animation in the back. But the second iteration was like all white. It was black and white. And Snoopy was literally sleeping on the dial, and it was so cute. The loom even lights up like Snoopy and everything. So when I saw that, I fell in love. But those retail for about $40,000 to $50,000 right now. So good luck getting one. And I thought it was cute because I grew up with Snoopy, and Knott's Berry Farm's big here in Southern California. It's almost like mini Disneyland, if you will, and
Yeah.
that's Snoopy's house. Like everything's Snoopy in there, and I kind of grew up with Snoopy. I was like, that's kind of cool. And then when I
Yeah.
found out about the award that NASA gives to whatever, and they give one to Omega, I was like, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right,
Everybody
now
always
they're milking it
wonders.
at this point, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we did chat about that on last week's episode. Yeah, about the 50th and the 40th. Yeah, I made the stupid comment.
No, why do you think I brought it up? I'm a fan of your show, man. I listen to you guys' podcast.
I appreciate it.
I heard it. I was like,
Yeah.
Omega. I like Omega. All right, cool.
Well, I was thinking about this mashup that for whatever reason I decided to speak into existence of putting the 50th the 40th case back on the 50th dial combination. But it's that's the coolest case back to me. I mean, it's like I would seriously pull that thing off
Going
all
over the
time,
moon.
just to look at it. Yeah, I would literally just have it just sitting upside down on the watch all the time. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's fun to dream about watches that we'll probably never own.
Yeah.
I think it reiterates, I mean,
Of course, I like the more expensive watch, the one that's $2,500, not the $1,800 one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it would be your first GMT. Yeah, you don't have any GMTs. So.
I do not. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's also why I'm so enamored with it. I'm like, this is the first one I've really looked at the function of GMT, and I've noticed it. Yeah, I've noticed I actually let it die for the same reason. It's kind of I thought it would last one more night, and it ended up running out of battery, and so I had to figure out how to reset the whole thing. And first time trying to figure out a GMT, I'm like, what the heck? Why ain't the date changing?
Yeah, GMTs are a different animal when it comes to setting them. They're usually not fun.
A little more complex.
I still can't figure it out, to be honest with you. I had the SBGM 221 and I got asked multiple times, hey, where do you have your GMT time set at? I was like, I have no idea. Like, what do you mean? I don't know how to read it. Well, I kind of do, but then I forget how to read it and I don't want to set it. And I'm like, it just looks cool.
Yeah.
I told David that I just watched a video and the lady was talking about how to set a GMT Master 2 and how when you set the GMT hand, you want that to be your local, like basically the time zone where you live. And then that way, when you travel, you can just quick set the local hour hand. And that had never occurred to me to do that. I always put the GMT hand at a secondary location I wanted to track. Like I work with people in California and I live in Atlanta. So I always set the GMT hand 3 hours back. And then the main hour hand is my local time. And I was like, that makes so much more sense. Just keep them both on the same time. And then if you travel, just quick set it,
That's true.
So yeah, I've owned GMTs and talked on the podcast about how much I love them. And it took me apparently up until like 2 weeks ago to figure out that the GMT hand should be your
It's okay.
reference time.
It's all good.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like the light bulb went off like, wow, man, no wonder people like these watches so much. This is so useful.
Yeah. Hey, good luck trying to figure out a Navi timer though.
Yeah. No, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Not
They're
for
a
me.
lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I got the SBGM 221, I think I bought it like right before Christmas. So it was like December 20 something or 19. And the watch, it was not running and it was set like 2 days ahead on the date wheel. And so I'm watching this guy flick the local hour, because it isolates the local. And so I'm watching him flick it. That's 24 clicks times like 28 days when he was setting the watch. And so I had just swiped my credit card and then he is going through setting it. And I'm like, I don't want to be a douche and tell you to like give me the watch and just let me do it. Which now I would set it the same way. But that was a brutal experience when you get a new watch and you don't know what's happening because the GMT function is so different. And you just see that hour hand just for like 4 minutes straight.
That does suck though. That's the thing I didn't like about that watch that you have, the SBGM 221, that doesn't have like a quick date set. You have to go through the whole thing 24 hours. So.
I will say you can go backwards. And
really?
I don't think the guy actually knew that. Well, I know that he didn't know that because he should have just went backwards. Yeah, you can go backwards. That's pretty cool. So
you go forward and then backward, forward and backwards?
Yeah, so you just pop out to that first
like a
position.
Hacking?
Exactly. Yeah. So you pop out to that first position where it isolates
I don't read the
local
manual.
hand and then back it up. Oh no, I Googled it whenever I got home. I was like, is this how you're supposed to set a GMT watch? Or did the guy that sold me the watch just break the watch? And the first video I found, it might have even been from Grand Seiko or somebody maybe probably just doing like a review or something.
Got it.
And they were like, yeah, you can go forward and backward. So yeah, if you are like 2 days ahead for whatever reason, you just go 2 days back instead of 28 days forward.
That's cool.
Yeah. So.
Maybe that's next on my list, GMT watch, even though I don't use them. I've had two and I've sold them. I had the Tudor, the GMT, the Pepsi, sold it, and then the SBGM 221 sold it. So it's like, I don't know.
It's become my favorite, but
that's cool.
Well, guys, we're an hour and a half in, so probably a good time to wrap it up. Miguel, I want to say thank you again, man, for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
But before we do wrap up, Miguel, David, any last thoughts? If not, we can maybe jump into a couple of social plugs, and then we can bounce out of here.
I have nothing. Just honestly, like I always say, stay humble, and I really mean that. And I hope I didn't come across as a snob, or my buddies here didn't come across as snobs. It's not about that. It's just about growth. And the longer you're into watch collecting, the more you will understand what we're talking about. But yeah, it's not all about Rolex. It's not all about Patek. It's about what you like and just what moves you, really. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely echo the sentiment. It's about what moves you, all right? Because once people go into an AD and they pick up a watch and they're like, wow, that's different. Then then it no longer becomes a materialistic thing, right? It's
right.
You've got that appreciation,
yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, tell everyone just one more time where they can find you on social, and if you got anything new going on, anything like that.
So, SoCal Watch Reviews on YouTube and Instagram. I do have a TikTok account. I don't even know why I opened it, because I basically just put all my reels from Instagram there, but I have an account just to kind of keep up with some other people what is not doing great. And I do have a podcast. You could check it out on all major podcast platforms. We haven't recorded in a little bit about. We'll get back on track. We are too deep in to just kind of give it up. I've invested a lot of time, and I love what I do. I love talking to people about watches and about their journey and their aspirations or what have you. And next for me, honestly, is just more reviews. I got watches, I got ideas, I got things, and it's just like I'm passionate about this, to be honest with you. And if anybody, including you guys, have any questions or whatever, I'm an open book. Send me a DM, and I'll try to give you the best advice I can. So.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. And everyone, definitely check out SoCal Watch Reviews. And from us at Strap and Link, David, any last thoughts today? Anything you want to leave the listeners with? A piece of guidance or inspiration?
Don't buy a Tudor if you want a Submariner, because you'll end up spending $15,000 versus $10,000 because it won't scratch the edge. That's the last thing I'll leave you with.
Truth bomb, baby. All right, everyone, stay blessed, be good, do good, have fun, and don't buy the watch that you don't really want. Buy the one that you really, really want. With that,
you can wait an extra year. Bye-bye.